Hi everybody, this is Gary Dean with Sentiment Timing, and this is just a quick free video update that I'm doing, and to go over really the predictive analytic model that we have and what's going on and how we're going to be trading this moving forward. So again, there's three values that make up our model. It's time, sentiment, and technicals. So time is we're in a bearish or a not bullish friendly time period. We believe that's going to be accelerating at some point. But what happens, since we know that the time period is looking lower, what we do now is follow sentiment. So yesterday, sentiment came in at 82% when we had that pretty big bounce. This is just the yesterday's sentiment chart. It's not today's. But sentiment came in big, and with that, we ran into resistance. Now, yesterday I had shown you the S&P, and I'd said that we were up at a level right now where if the bulls popped above this, they're most likely going to come up, close the gap, and then I left the door open for the 2863. But we identified this as a top back when we had this first drop. So the members we've been on shorting the rallies mode. But the reason why the model is important, especially moving forward, is when we get sentiment extremes, what happens is if we get technicals that are going to back up the sentiment, what typically is going to happen, whether it be in most likely this really happens when we're in a downtrend, is you get some pretty massive rallies in between, and typically those happen when we have the sentiment that hits an extreme bearish level, and we have bullish divergences on top of that. So I'm just trying to show you give you an example. This one's really not a good example because this was really the last call that Woody was looking for the clipper, and from there we just went straight down. But you notice that when we went down to this low here, we had the bullish divergences in place, and from there we also had a bunch of very bearish sentiment readings. So once we got up into these levels, this is probably a better idea. So we were still in the downtrend here. He was looking for the low to come in early April, and remember that call was made all the way back here. So once we get these bounces, we knew we were still on shorting the rallies, but the thing is we had bullish divergences in place here. We had very low sentiment, and this was the type of rally that we got. But once we started going up and this was now resistance, we then had bearish divergences in place. We had very high sentiment, and I could even show you that on this one here, because when we go back into April, you can see 95%, 93%. So when we get the sentiment readings like that, and we're still in the downtrend, meaning it's not safe to buy, what you do is we had a bearish divergence there, we had resistance, and you just waited for the short trigger, and then this was the move down. And again, this was when we were looking for the low, so all you had to do is wait for the bullish divergences to come in, go into a buy signal, and you start buying buying dips. And that's really the whole formula to this. Now, the move that's coming from here, I can see it happening something like this, if not something even bigger. The reason why is what I showed you in the I believe it was the weekly chart I showed you, where just the wave structure that's in place right now, the ultimate target on this is going to be all the way down at 2028. But this is not anything that's happening right now. This is something that may take place in the next couple of years, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. This is the wave structure that's in place for it. But my point that I'm trying to make is that the next one that we're anticipating, it's not going to be just something like this. Most likely it's going to be one of these type moves. So right now, just to sum things up on it, we're in the bearish time period. Sentiment is probably going to be pretty low today. We'll find that out in tomorrow's report. And we're at some support right now. We don't really have any bullish divergences in place. As you can see here on the 60-minute chart, we had lower lows on it, but we're at support. So is this where you want to get aggressively on the short side? And that answer is no. This is a very important bull bear line that I identified once we started breaking out of this and it was used as support. Once the bears were not able to push through this, there was really only one other direction, that was up. If the market's not going to go down, it's going to go up, and that's what took place. So this is still very, very important. So do you want to jump short right now? No. What you want to do is wait for some type of bounce. But the thing is, you need sentiment, you need people to start believing in this rally again. And once they do, and once we get a quick high sentiment reading, and we burn off a little bit of these oversold levels, depending on where it is, now it's going to be a shorting opportunity. So the point that I was really trying to make with this is that we know the time period, our values. The time period is bearish. Sentiment, this is going to start going up and down, meaning that we're going to get bearish extremes, and when that happens, most likely we're going to get a counter trend bounce. But being the time period is down, what you do is we use the technicals to figure out where the bounce could take place and where to short it. So right now, what I'm looking at, if we do get a bounce, is a move back up to this 28.43, and it's going to be it's going to be a head and shoulders pattern. So that's what I'm looking at, and that's really the reason why it's important to know. You know, one of the most important pieces of trading is knowing time, because you're able to control your emotions. Sentiment is the emotions of the time, but the worst part is that everybody usually gets bullish or bearish at the exact wrong times, and that's because they follow the media. So knowing where sentiment is on you know, every day or every other day, it gives you that advantage, because you're able to trade against what the herd is doing, and the herd is going to be wrong, you know, most of the time, almost all the time, and you simply just wait for a buy or sell trailer. So right now things are, you know, in place. I would not be shorting right now. I'd wait. Once we start breaking this bull bear line, then we start getting some panic selling. But right now, I believe we could get a bounce, but it doesn't make a difference. We're still looking lower, and we'll see how sentiment turns out. And again, once we get a little bit of the sentiment levels off a little bit, and we run into some resistance, you short, and we just continue to do this over and over again until when we are going to get the low date. We already know when the low date is, so we don't have to worry about bounces and what's going on. We just know that we want to be shorting them, and when that low date comes, everybody's going to be bearish on the market. And when everybody's bearish on the market and calling it you know, that we're crashing and we're going down to 1,000, that's when we turn around and we look to be buying the market, and we get these massive moves to the upside. So we're able to trade both sides, but the most important thing is knowing when to trade those sides, how the environment is, what they're feeling about it, because we always want to be most likely looking the opposite side, especially when we get a series of extreme sentiment readings, and then where. And all we do is let price dictate when we get long or short. So it's like I said, it's going to be a pretty exciting time period. You guys, you know, knowing when to be looking to get long instead of getting bearish like the majority, and when to look to get short when everybody's getting bullish on the market. This is, you know, it's invaluable information, and it's why a lot of these, some of the most largest financial institutions in the world will go to Woody for this type of market forecasting. So with that, have a great night. I think we have like 3 spots left in that special. So once they're gone, you have to be waiting until next week. I'm not sure what special we'll be putting up. We may leave the same one. But in any case, if you want in and want to know what to expect in the coming weeks, maybe take advantage of that, the last 3 spots. And with that, have a great night, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.